Welcome to another session on Steps to My True Self. Today I am going to address the big topic, the mental illness and climate change. So let's talk about what's happening with the earth. The earth is a sun with its light obscure. This is the reason why we have been dwelling on the earth like this with this kind of creation. Earth is slowly illuminating. A lot of changes are going to be taking place on the earth. And I am saying this over and over as a warning so that you know what is happening. It's not just say this is climate change. Yes, the climate is changing, but why is the climate changing? The climate is changing because the earth is changing. The earth is changing from this earth as we know it. It's moving back into balance. The earth has been imbalanced in this duality. Now the earth is returning back to its true self. The earth is returning back to the non-duality. The earth is returning back to being a sun. And so it has to go through all of these changes. And Supreme says by the end of 2022, the earth will be fully illuminated, meaning that light is going to be turned on, but eventually all the heat is going to be turned on because this is a sun and it's going to burn up everything that is on this earth. Everything on this earth will be burned to ashes. And so the earth will return back to being balanced. Remember that the earth is a sun. The earth is no longer this earth that we view it as. The earth has always been a sun, but the light was turned off and the heat was turned off so that we could dwell here and explore here in this dream world. We are inside of a dream and we must awake and come into the real because this world is coming to an end over and over again. And I keep saying the same thing because it's not getting into all y'all's thick skulls because you're saying, oh, I don't think the world is coming to an end. Yes, the earth is moving back into balance. So we must also be working on ourselves so we can move ourselves back into balance and harmony. Move from this duality consciousness back into the non-duality. What do we do now then if the earth is moving back into balance? We're also supposed to be working, moving ourselves from this duality back into the non-duality. When we came into existence, we are non-duality. We are in awareness of ourselves. We're in awareness of our light. Consciousness and the light and the self is indivisible. In this duality existence, consciousness is not in awareness of its light. The self is not in awareness of itself or its light. It's sleeping. The sleeping self is inside the body, not in awareness of itself. Consciousness is sleeping. Only the ego has risen up and taken precedent over the self. Consciousness is 100% ego. The self in the body is 50% ego because the soul is there with its light on as the witness, the watcher, but it's not the one animating the body. It's waiting for the baby self, the great I am, to wake up and take precedent over the ego. Because the ego has risen up as an imposter because the baby self, the great I am, is sleeping and has not risen up to take precedent over this existence. And so this is what you have to do now. You have to wake up the sleeping self so that you can come into the real, so that you can castrate the ego, because the ego is obscuring your light, and your light must shine. This is the reason for the mental sickness and all the mental problem that we have in the world. All the people who do all these crazy things and we say, oh, they're evil. It's the mind. The mind is sick. We came into this existence with a sick mind. And only the ones of us who have learned how to still the mind and to balance the mind has been making good management of the mind. When we come of age, there's something inside of us that rises up. And so we get these feelings. We don't understand it. It puts us in depression. And so a lot of people are going through these depression because the mind is sick. And when you dwell into the mind, it gets worse. You have to take a vacation from the mind. And so this is what's happening This is what needs to happen within all of us because the earth is moving into balance. There's a lot of changes that is going to take place on the earth, and it's going to get worse. So my suggestion is that you all just start working on yourself. You have to wake up, come into self-realization that you are not this body, you are not this mind. You are the self making an appearance as this human being. Stop thinking that you're this human being and you're this mind. Get out of the mind so the mind can rest and be purified. And so awake the sleeping self and castrate the ego so that you can come into a realization of who you are. You can illuminate yourself and your light will shine and you can move into the non-duality. This is where we have to go because this world, as we know it, is coming to an end. Whether you want to believe me or not, this is the truth and this is so. This world is coming to an end. And all of the beings that you worship, the gods, the archangels, the devils, the demons, the satans, all of them, the ancestors, the deities, they must evolve themselves. It's time for you to stop conjuring them up, stop invoking them, and only focus on the self because they are in ignorance and for ages they have been reigning tyrannically over the self. They have put the self in slavery. When I tell you that your soul is in slavery, you don't believe me, but you're still calling them, oh, you're giving them your soul. Why do you think they've been campaigning for ages to get your soul? They are in 100% ego because their light is obscure. Your soul is your light, your ignorance. In ignorance, you do a lot of things and you think that you know anything, but you don't know it. I have experienced it all, and so I speak the truth. You don't know about the self, I know about the self, and I tell you, and all you guys are stuck in the ego and think that you know stuff and you don't know anything. You have to get to the point and admit that you don't know and ask the intelligence within. When you were brewing up into your mother's womb, who was it that was there doing all of this brewing? The self, the soul and the body and the primal guru. Create the body. Put the self in it to animate it. Ask the intelligence within you. Don't go seek anything outside of yourself. It's all illusion. You just get caught up in the illusion and in a black hole in the mind and you'll never be able to escape it. So I'm telling you, seek the self first and awake the self up. It's the only way to experience the real and to come into truth and to liberate yourself from bondage, from slavery, and to move to the non-duality. You know, call an expert when you don't want to know things. I am the expert on this. Yes, me, I am primal light, prepared for the world with identity all set. I'm the daughter of the self-supreme, primal light. I am the liberator and I advocate for all souls. So it's time to unify the self and be a unified self. When you came into this existence, you fragment yourself into 4 selves. You in the body, you made a baby self. So that's 2 selves, which you call the soul and the spirit. So there's 2 selves, the mommy self and the baby self. And then you had 2 more selves. One goes out in the world disembodied, and another one coming to the world in another body. Yeah, you have to merge all yourself together. Don't be busy conjuring up and invoking any gods. You have yourself to work on, to merge yourself and unify yourself. And you have yourself to wake up. You are sleeping and you need to wake up from this dream. This is a dream world. You're in a dream. This is not real. And all these dream things are going to burn to the ground. So let me see when we're going to take all the dream stuff, like when we're going to take it with, everything we're going to accumulate and we're going to leave it here. Only the self is real. Start working on the self. Get busy. Start working on the self. Get out of this mind and get out of this illusionary perspective that you're viewing through your lenses. It's time for you now to start connecting to the real, to the truth. And this, knowing that this is a dream and only the self is real, and you have to awake the sleeping self to come into the real. Castrate the ego, because the ego has taken precedent over the self, and the self must rise up and take back precedent over the ego. Castrate the ego and you liberate the soul. You liberate yourself. Do you want to liberate yourself, or do you want to stay in bondage where you advocate for your own self? You are in slavery. You are in bondage. Free yourself. Awake, awake, awake from the dream. So I want to thank you. Leave any comment, ask me any questions on the self.